I
Hi.
am Humberto Pignon, and I am the health educator over at Curry Senior Center. And today, so I'm also like a plant geek and a plant nerd, and I love plants. I've done some other videos that we have on our YouTube channel about plants, just different stuff, showing different varieties and types. But today, I'm so glad we get to do a live Tenderloin Tenderloin Houseplant Club. There we go. I said that right. Live, where I'm going to basically be teaching you how to like take most plants that you might have indoors and make a whole bunch of them. Pretty much for the cost of a pair of scissors and a glass of water. So, it's pretty
Done it before.
interesting.
I just did it the other day.
Oh, did you?
I walked over to a friend's house, apartment city. I walked up the steps, and there was this beautiful spider plant with an offshoot, and I went, "Ooh, gotta have that."
But yeah, awesome. Well, I mean, I've got a spider plant here that we're going to show people so they can know what you're talking about, just in case if somebody hasn't seen one. But this is going to be really, really fun because I'm going to chop up all of my beautiful plants here live on our Zoom call. But first, I wanted to kind of go into the, kind of the logistics of what really is going on, like what we're actually doing. So I'm going to share my screen. So basically, what plant propagation is making little babies off of a mother plant. And what that entails is it's basically, this is the actual definition of it, but we don't need to go over that. It's basically taking a piece off of a plant and doing something to it, either putting it in water or soil or whatever, and having it sprout roots so that you have an exact clone of the lovely plant that you had before. So before we do that, the reason that we can do this with houseplants is that most houseplants are like tropical plants. So they come from the tropics, way down south from where we are. Think like Mexico, Central America, Brazil, Colombia, all those places here on this side of the planet. And most of them are like vining plants because in the tropical rainforests, they basically sprout and there's no light because of all the tall trees. So they vine so that they can get up and they can get into the top where there is light. And the thing about it is that the way they do this is they have a lot of different specialized features that a lot of other plants don't have. And these come from these tissues that are basically like stem cells that can turn into many different things. Either it can be a new leaf, or it can be a root, or it can be some kind of other thing. I don't know, whatever. But we take advantage of this by tricking it and thinking that like there's been a storm in the jungle and a piece of, vine got cut off. It landed in the moist soil down at the bottom of the rainforest. It rooted, and that plant will continue to grow and survive, So it's basically like a way to propagate itself and a survival technique. So here are some really interesting plants. The kind of smaller one, that's a heart leaf philodendron, and you can see it kind of in a column. It's growing up a tree. Same thing with this on the other side. That is actually a pothos. That is a golden pothos that is very, very mature. And when they mature, their leaf form actually changes. A lot of these plants, when they're very mature, their leaf actually looks nothing like their juvenile or baby leaf. But if you can see, it's attached itself fully to the trunk of that tree, and it's like climbed up. And the cool thing about when a tropical vine climbs upward is that the leaves actually get larger and larger and larger because they can, they have the extra energy from the sun because they have that big surface area now. So they'll just put out huge leaves. If you go to, let me see, there is a certain part of Golden Gate Park where there are these very large, they're called bear britches, and these leaves are gigantic. I mean, they're probably the size of, a small fat child. Like they're very large. And they get like that because the more surface area they have, the more they can get sunlight in, and the more they can photosynthesize, and the stronger and more robust the plant can become. And here's another example. This is a monstera, some kind of monstera growing up a tree, looking all beautiful and cool. So the cut, that's the thing. You can't just go and pluck something off and put it in water and expect 100% that it'll sprout. So you actually have to cut it in very specific areas. And this is called a leaf node. Now, a leaf node is going to be like a bulbous area, a little swelling. It might have a little scar from where a leaf was attached. From there, that is the area where roots will actually come out. Roots or leaves can come out. So I'm going to show you some cool things in a minute. Now, the node itself is the place where the leaf attached to the vine, and it'll sometimes send out an aerial root. It'll already root just from the humidity in the air, and that is literally what it uses to attach to trees, the bark of trees, so that it can pull itself up. I used to have a bunch of pothos in my kitchen, and eventually they started attaching themselves to the actual wall without me doing anything. And when I took them down, like it took off paint. Like it was that strong and adhesive that they took to the wall. And this is the place right here. This is actually the plant behind me. It's that right there. Do you see that little nubbin that's coming out? It's like a little nub. That's an aerial root. Where it's attached, you can see is where a leaf comes out. So like I said, these tissues can either be roots or they can be leaves. So that's what we need to harvest to make our clones. Okay, so there's several ways to do a snip, all right? So I'm gonna show you a few different ways because I have actually a lot of situations that like I'm always like, oh, the best medicine is prevention. Don't do this with your plants. And I do it and I end up with these long, leafless, vines that look horrible. But I'll show you how to take care of that, okay? So we're gonna do long cuttings and short cuttings. And a long cutting is when you take a relatively long piece, pull off some of the leaves, stick it in water, and you're good to go. A short cutting is when you actually take each node off, each little leaf section off, and you root those. There's advantages and disadvantages to both of them. And when I do them here live, I will tell you what the pros and cons are. Succulents. So succulents are super, super easy to root. They're probably some of the easiest to root. You can actually just lay one of those leaf sections onto like a wet piece of paper or dirt or whatever, and it will literally start just throwing roots out and a little baby will come out. However, I don't have a lot of indoor succulents. I don't like growing them inside only because they kind of always look horrible because they don't get enough light, so I only grow them outside. Maybe that's another show that we can do later. All right, so water, soil, or other. There's lots of different mediums you can use, and today I'm happy to say I'm going to show you all three of the ones that I know that are popular, okay? All right, so now let's get to the best part. Now I'm going to start chopping my plants up. This is going to be exhilarating and sad because my poor baby, so let's get rid of this. So let's start with pothos. Pothos is probably a plant that almost every house in America at one time has had one. Every mall in America grows them as a ground cover. Angela has hers right there. They are ubiquitous. They are everywhere. They are actually a nuisance in Hawaii and Florida because the tropical climate there, they will literally completely take over large, vast areas and choke everything else out. But they're really, really fun to grow because like they're almost indestructible. They can go long times without being watered. You should never do this, but I accidentally had one in this like really cool pot that was like a pot in a pot, and I didn't know that it wasn't drinking as fast, and it literally sat in probably, I don't know, 6 inches of water for, I don't know, about a year before I realized that was happening. And it still grew, and it was alive. So they're very, very easy to propagate as well. This one has been on a shelf, and it got pretty long. So this is going to be the first one that I actually do some cutting. And this, so can you guys see it? It's right here. Yeah. All right. Now, this is going to look horrible and drastic and terrible, but I promise you, these kinds of plants, when you cut them, it just stimulates them to grow even more. If you cut them down here, it'll just make another leaf, you know, come out from the top because it's like, oh, I'm injured. I have to regenerate myself.
Humberto, isn't that basic rule of pruning?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you can do that with almost any plant, and for the most part, they love it. That's why we can do things like topiary, because you can literally shave them into balls, you know, or weird shapes, and they will just continue to grow. And you actually have to probably do that several times during the growing season, because when you shore them like that, they just want to grow faster. Like, oh God, we're injured. Let's put out even more leaves, you know. So that's actually very good you bring that up. Another good pruning tip is try not to take off more than 1/3 of the entire plant. I hear that all the time. I've completely destroyed plants before and it's been fun. So I'm just going to do this, like literally indiscriminately. I'm going to pick a random length and I'm just going to cut across the board. So I'm just literally going across and I'm cutting the vines all kind of the same length. There we go. So I actually got a whole bunch of vine now. So this is like 3 strands, I think. Actually, no, it's only 2. Great. All right. So let's do oh no, it is 3 strands. It's just all tangled, I think. There we go. It is 3 strands. Oh God. Okay. So here's one, and here are the things we're looking for. These kind of like nodes right here, and they're all up and down the vine, you know. So for like something to have really quick impact, you know, not just having one straggly vine, you know, to kind of have quick impact, I'll probably cut this into, let me see, there are 9 leaves. So I'll probably just cut it in half, and then the rest of these vines, I will probably get to the same length. So while I'm doing this, if anybody has any questions.
I just want to confirm one thing, Humberto. Vermiculite, isn't that the additive you put in potting soil for taking the cuttings after they've sprouted roots and being in the water, and then that's their first ground material with potting soil and the vermiculite?
So it sounds like you have been in the nursery business before, because that's actually like, yeah, if we were in a commercial nursery, that is exactly what we would do. You would either root them using some kind of like, it's like a core material of like, it looks like wool almost, you know.
Yeah.
You would put them in, and then those little plugs would go into perlite or vermiculite, which is just an expanded rock. And the cool thing about it is that it's weird. It absorbs water, but it also is not full of water. So it's not like it's sopping wet. And then it's real loose and crumbly because it's like this real puffy rock that really doesn't weigh much. And the roots just kind of like zigzag all through that medium really, really quickly. And especially in like a commercial nursery, in the nursery, you'll have, in the greenhouse, you'll have high humidity, you'll have high light, and it'll be really warm. So really those things, I mean, they take off. You can see roots growing like this big, and then at the end of the day, they're like that big, and you're like, that is creepy. But yeah, no, that is absolutely correct.
But it's easy to come by. I think like you can even buy it at Walgreens or Target.
Yeah.
It's potting soil with the vermiculite. And it's almost like styrofoam. I wondered, it's been so long, I thought, do they still carry that stuff? Or did California ban it?
No, it actually is a totally organic product. All it is rock that's been put in this like basically like a super furnace that injects air in at the same time, and it puffs up this rock to basically make it so full of air that it's like styrofoam. Like it's really, really light. I buy it. Actually, I buy it on Amazon because it's the cheapest there. And when you get the box, you think like, oh, they didn't put it in. But when you open the box, it's literally that light because like it'll be like, also in the nursery business, the bags are really strangely, they're either by square foot or square yard, or they also do like 9 dry quarts. You know what 9 dry quarts is? So I think like, oh my God, that sounds really heavy, but in perlite or vermiculite, it's nothing. Could toss it back and forth. It looks like kitty litter kind of. So I'm just cutting, trying to make sure that I get like, you know, kind of even little lengths of, you know, a vine. Okay, so now that we have, this is not even, this has got to be good. Okay, so now that we have all of our vines, all right, we want this right here. We want that. That is the root node. So you can see it's kind of like a swelling. A leaf came out of that node, and also there's aerial roots right there. Sometimes these aerial roots will just start growing. Sometimes they don't do anything, and then like roots will come out all around it. It's really funny. But we do not want these leaves in the water because they will eventually rot. So what I do is I just kind of snap them off. So then it's kind of like a naked, you know, like a naked little cutting. And I'm going to submerge it to where this node right here on the bottom and this node are fully submerged. Okay. So then we have a really good chance of both of them forming roots, and lots of roots means lots of growth. So let's do that real quick. So any other questions while I get some of these ready to go?
Humberto, what does it mean in general if the plant turns yellow, it means too much water, and if it turns black and the leaves die, it means not enough water, right?
Well, it really depends. So yeah, sometimes yellowing leaves means that it's been overwatered and it's killing off some leaves because it's not really growing. When it's like fully submerged in water and it doesn't want to be, it'll just stop growing and it'll lose a lot of leaves. If you have really mature leaves, like this one, I guess is a really mature one because it's really thick. I cut them off instead of pulling them off because a lot of times you can actually rip the whole thing apart. But I mean, you really have to learn the kind of like the flow of your plant. You know what I mean? Like you have to read it. A lot of times people will do watering and then they'll wait until they see the plant to start to wilt a little before they water it because they'll be like, oh, that's the key. You know, I mean, that's my you know, signal to water it. Other people will like, you know, water, and, you know, let it sit in water and leaves will turn yellow. Leaves might turn black because they're rotting. They're literally rotting. It's a really strange thing. You just have to really have to learn your plants to know what it is. And then another time, sometimes leaves turn yellow, you know, because they're no longer necessary for the vine. Maybe it has a lot of brand new leaves and maybe this leaf is damaged in some way, shape, or form, and it will naturally shed leaves. So if you see a yellow leaf, it's not really the biggest thing. You shouldn't worry about it too much.
Sometimes, Humberto, isn't it sometimes the lack of nitrogen, or you know, that's where fertilizer comes in?
I mean, occasionally it does. However, what people don't is ever use fertilizer in moderation.
True.
And people always end up burning their plants, and then they're like, but I gave it fertilizer. A lot of times these plants that are, especially from like the jungle, live in areas where the soil isn't fertile anyway because it rains so much that like all of the nutrients have been leached out of the native soil. However, because it is in a culture where it can't search for nutrients outside of the little pot we put it in, I tend to do like weird cycles. I will water with pure water for like, I don't know, a month. And then I'll water for like 2 weeks with a tiny bit of fertilizer in the water for like 2 weeks. And then I just won't do it again for like a month or two even sometimes, I'll forget. However, I have switched to an organic fertilizer. It's gross.
Botswana?
It's really disgustingly fragrant. Like, because I mean, what it's made out of, it's hydrolyzed chicken manure and hydrolyzed fish protein. So it smells like rotten fishy poop.
Yeah.
Anything for my plants.
Yeah.
So here we
Botswana
go.
too. The bad crap.
I have
Yeah.
a question. What is it when your leaves get like a little dead tip? Can you see that?
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah, so dead tips sometimes are avoidable and sometimes not. One, a lot of times it's the humidity. Jungle plants, tropical plants love to just be covered in humidity, and it keeps everything nice and beautiful and lush. Other times, plants go through something called gudation, I don't know, gudation. And what happens is that at night when they're respirating, they do exude water that is not needed in their stems to their leaves, and it comes out and it forms on the tip, and that water has a lot of like carbonates and a lot of like dissolved minerals, and it'll end up burning the tips of the leaves. So it's the two things. It's the combination too. Some of it you can avoid, and then what you can avoid is by misting, setting up like a humidifier. I don't know if you guys follow any plant people on Instagram, but that is the brand new thing. There are new humidifiers made for plant people. They make them look all sleek. Yeah, and that is that is the new thing. And I'm like, I want one. Okay, so we have now our vines, and I have about two. Some of them have three leaf nodes that I took the leaves off. And the reason that I wanted these long is as soon as they have roots, I can put this in a pot and it looks pretty full already. You know, it actually looks nice and full. And that's a trick that the nursery industry will do as well. If you've ever noticed buying, say, like a 4-inch pot, there will be 3 actual plants in there, and they do that so that the plant looks like, oh, so big and lush, and it's like, well, that's 3 together. You know, same thing with house plants, and I hate when they do this because you buy a house plant, you take it home, and then you realize that it's not like a big mature plant. You realize that there's just like 10 little plants in this small container. My Monstera Adansonia, the Swiss cheese vine, I thought I bought this beautiful, full, you know, gorgeous plant, and I realized no, it was just a tangle of maybe like, I'm not even joking, 15 plants. I took it apart, I separated, I probably made 1, 2, 3 whole new plants, replanted the mama, and she's still full and lush. So you can make plants that way too. And actually, I'm going to show you that. So we have our vines, all right? So our vines now need a receptacle. Any receptacle will do that holds water. I save these from plants that are given to me. This is a tulip forcer. You put the tulip on top and it's got a kind of narrow neck so it doesn't sit in it. I like these because it kind of keeps them all in place. There you go. Put that in. Fill it up with water. And then what I do, which I think, I don't know, is just my way of feeling the plants, is I go and I set it right next door to the mama plant that I took it off. And I think, one, it keeps it in the same exact light it was growing in, so you're not going to shock it by putting it in either lower light, where it'll take much longer for it to root, or putting it in high light, which you just cut it off the mama, and if you go put it in high light, it'll probably scorch and wilt before you ever get roots. So I literally just set it right next door to mama, so that it is in the same exact light, and also so that, like, you know, the trauma of being separated from your mama is like, you know, less of an issue. You know, plants talk. Trust me, they do. All right, so one plant down. So easy. Did you see how easy that was? Put it in water. It's so easy. Oh my God. Okay, so now I'm going to show you little tiny ones, and I love doing this because then you can create really amazing, like, cool, full plants. However, it takes like quadruple the time to get there than this does, because, like I said, this looks full. We're going to actually take apart node by node by node by node, and we're going to set them in a spiral in a little sphagnum moss, and we're going to just grow this really full, crazy looking thing, but like in a year. Okay. So,
Hey, Humberto, how soon before that in the glass jar of water starts to get roots?
So, oh my God, you're not even going to believe this, but I have put pothos in water before, and I'm not even joking. In 2 days, I have seen the aerial root push out new growth because it's white. It's brand new, spanking white, and you're like, no. And the next day you wake up and it's like, oh yeah, because it's like double the size it was the day before. That's why plants are hella cool, because you can literally watch them grow every single day.
And how long should you let the roots grow before you put it into some kind of soil?
Yeah, so pothos are extremely finicky when it comes to being transferred between water and soil. I would say let the roots get about 2 inches to 2.5 inches long, or I would even wait until you see single roots start to branch. So if you see one long root, I would wait until it branches. As soon as it starts branching, I would put it into soil. A lot of times we will forget.
Can we show my forgotten pothos?
Absolutely, because they just start growing and we forget about them, and they're just living in this water.
Okay, so here is the forgotten pothos in a cup filled with roots. I don't know if you can see the bottom is all roots. I can kind of pick it up. There's all the roots.
That's at least a year, right?
At least. So, you know, I put it on top of a bookcase in the sun, and I sort of left it, and it's become like a Frankenstein's pothos. So I'm not sure what I should do. Should I trim some roots, and then you think I could kind of stick it in the water, stick it in some soil?
That's what I would totally do. I would take it out. I would trim the roots. I would put it back in the water just so that you can see it start
rooting a little.
As soon as you see little tiny roots start reforming, I would put it into the soil, because then by that point it'll be like actively growing, you know?
Okay, got it. So there is hope for the forgotten pothos filled with water. I do change the water. It's not like year-old water. It's just I forgot about it.
Humberto, can I show you mine?
Yes.
This is that one that
I'm next.
Oh.
I rescued from the garbage.
Oh,
my goodness! What? That is amazing! Oh my God! That is like a Swiss cheese plant. It's a.
Did she just say she rescued from the garbage?
Yes, she did.
Yeah, somebody threw out a limb. I cut it up, and someone threw it in the compost, on the top of the compost.
They thought it was dead.
Can I show you the pothos that I bought at the farmer's market in San Francisco? It only had 3 leaves at the time in a 3-inch pot.
Yes.
Go for it.
We are here now.
Oh, see, there we go.
Wrapped
Ooh.
around the, what do you call it? The, oh, it escapes my mind.
Oh, look how pretty.
The tomato.
Wait a minute.
Yeah,
You know what that actually is? That is not a
not
pothos. That's a philodendron Brazil.
this one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. I'm
Yeah.
not happy with either.
No,
But
yeah.
it's in the
So
circle right
it's
now.
beautiful. Like, and you're growing this outside?
Yes.
Wow.
Look at it. Once I started putting it in a circle, it started giving me leaves everywhere and multiple leaves on the same nodule. And look how big the nodules are.
That
How
is
often do you water it?
beautiful. Wow.
Yeah, and
How often do you
the
water
leaves.
it?
Oh, once in a while when I remember.
Oh, every now and then I throw it a cup of water.
So,
No, but it's been the most resilient of them all.
No, it's wow, it's gorgeous. I love philodendron Brazils because as they go up, and this is basically like a rule of thumb for almost all vining
I have
plants.
cuttings. I'll drop them off on Monday.
As they actually go up, the leaves actually get bigger. So if you want to have a really cute, dainty, viney plant, you put it in a hanging basket or you let it flow over like your desk. But if you want it to really grow massive leaves that you never really thought would actually grow in it, you put it either on like a trellis or stick, or what I do, I buy, it's called a moss pole. And it's basically either moss or this is actually coconut fiber that's wrapped around a, actually it's wrapped around a PVC pipe. So as this plant actually gets larger, I can actually put another one in to extend it. It's really cool. You guys want me to cut this guy up? I'm really scared.
No.
Okay, let's do this one next, and then we'll go back to pothos so I can show you short cuttings. Okay, but okay.
One technical question, Humberto.
Yeah.
For water, do you use filtered water or you just use regular old water?
So that is the thing. Oh my God. So on Instagram, people are buying distilled water for their plants. So I have not jumped on that yet. I'm a crazy plant person. Don't get me wrong. I'm a crazy plant person, but I have not jumped on that because I actually have free distilled water because I have a dehumidifier. And that water has no minerals in it. So it's basically the same as like, distilled water. So I use that. However, I don't run the dehumidifier. I wish I was running that today, but I can't because the windows are open. I just use tap water. I just use tap water. For the most part, it's mostly tap water. Okay, so this is arrowhead vine.
Where do you get that pole?
I got this pole on Amazon.
Oh.
So if you want to order one, I can throw the link out at you in an email. So this vine actually loves to climb. And the more and more it climbs, the actually bigger and bigger the leaves will get. So that's why I put a moss pole in. And the way it does it is, it's another classic, example of how these tropical plants grow. You can see it's got roots already forming on the node. So I'm just going to cut right under that. And then I'm going to actually put this into soil. The reason I'm going to put this one into soil is because this one notoriously does not like to switch from water to soil and then soil to water again. It does not like to do it. I have almost shed a tear for many of the cuttings I've lost that I started in water and tried to put into soil. So I'm going to get this really nice, fast. It looks like it's fastly growing because it has a new leaf and it has a new little leaf unfurling. And I'm just going to cut underneath where I see a root growing. So let me do that. Wish me luck. I'm going to do it off camera because I'm really scared. So, all right, I'm going to do it. So here, if you can see, there's two little roots already poking out.
Wow.
Wow.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little pot, and we will come back over here. It's so cute. Look, it's tiny. We will put some soil in it. I store the soil outside on the patio, so I just brought in a little in a Tupperware because I didn't want to bring the bag in.
Do you have any specific type of soil that you recommend?
Just any potting soil that says for either indoor or it says specifically for pots. They put vermiculite, perlite, they'll put shredded bark, all kinds of stuff in it to make it real chunky, as opposed to if you buy like a soil amendment for the outside, it'll get compact, you know, and it won't really let the roots kind of like grow. Most indoor plants love a chunky soil, like throw stuff in it, throw rocks in it, you know, like pebbles, all kinds of stuff. It really loves a chunky, loose soil. I actually sometimes even make my own soil. If that sounds crazy, I do. I will buy like peat moss that is ground up like real fine, and I'll mix that with worm castings, which is exactly what it sounds like. And then I will mix that with perlite to make it real airy. And I'll use that as soil for the indoor. Worm castings, on the other hand, I buy them in a bag, and it's worm poop. But the cool thing about it is that it has really like easily digestible nutrients for the plants. So I always sprinkle a little bit on top as like pixie dust, and it definitely helps the plants take off even faster. Okay, so we have our cutting. Then we have our soil. I'm going to make a divot, but here's the thing. I'm scared. I don't want this to die. So I'm going to buy a little bit of insurance. And I'm going to use this. It is a rooting hormone. It's called Take Root. Very cheap. I bought this for $3.99, and I've had it for like a year because you literally dip it in and you knock all the excess off, and that's all you use. So just for insurance, because I don't want this piece to die because I love this plant, I'm going to use the rooting hormone. Put it in. Really get all of it off.
So it's a little bit of vitamins or something, so it lasts.
There's also natural ones. You can dip your rootings in honey. That's a natural rooting hormone. You can also cut a little square of potato, and you can root in that. And then you can also use a little chunk of aloe vera. You can actually slip the cutting into a little chunk of aloe vera, and that will help it root. So we have water. And then I will just secure it in there real tight. Sometimes if it flops over, I'll put like a little stick in there to kind of hold it up. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to water this. And then I'm probably going to put it on a plate. And then I'm probably going to put like a clear plastic dobe over it to increase the humidity, just because I really like. This plant is very sentimental to me because it was one of the only plants that came with me to California when I moved here from New Mexico. And it's literally died, come back, died, come back, and then it died, and look, now we're here again. So that's why I'm like, oh, my baby. So there it is. I will water it after I'm done, and I will keep the soil just moist. I won't let it dry out. I won't let it sit in water, but I won't let it ever dry out. And hopefully it'll bless me with roots. And the way I'll know is that, one, you will see it actively growing, putting out like new little leaves, or you will see roots starting to come out of the bottom. And it's a very shallow little pot, so it should be quite easy. So, okay. So let's get into some more cutting, because I want to show you a really cool one. That's your mother-in-law. These are so fun and cool to root. And the cool thing about it is that one long leaf, you can take several cuttings from and grow several plants. And I will show you. But let me quickly show you how they look. So they're as simple as just cutting a leaf, letting it dry for a day, and then putting it in water. Do you see? Root. They all pretty much, this one.
They make babies on their own.
They do, look. This one has a baby already coming up. So I will probably pot this one pretty soon, probably like tomorrow. Okay, so let's do this really quick because this is how quick it's gonna go. We will find a beautiful leaf, which I really like this one, that I'm okay with cutting. I'm gonna cut it, okay, there, just cut it off.
Do you cut it down at the edge of the soil?
Yeah, just so that it doesn't look all stumpy. Okay, so this is what I do. I have a permanent marker, and what I do is I basically will make little lines on it. And I'll tell you what the lines are for later. All right, so then after I make lines on it, I'm gonna cut right underneath the line, okay? Right underneath the line, right underneath the line. You see the lines I drew in it? The line, cut under it, then cut under it, okay? Now, this is a new technique that I learned just recently on Instagram. If you love plants, follow plant people on Instagram because I've learned so much. So here's the plant. The reason I put the line is because if you put this in this way, it will not root. This plant does not want to root from its top. It wants to root only from the bottom. Just a quirky thing about this plant. So what you're supposed to do now is make a notch. So do you see how I made a notch? So one, it tells me what the bottom is. So the notch is the bottom side. And then the notch actually increases the area of where roots are going to come off. So instead of it being a straight line, which is maybe an inch, a straight line, another line is probably 1.5 inches. So we just gained a whole bunch more area for roots, which will make this plant much, much stronger. And for this guy, you have to let him dry out for like 3 or 4 days first. If you put him directly into water, this fresh cut will rot basically. It'll turn into gel. So you have to let them dry out for a few days before you put them in.
Once it dries out, you put that notched end into what? Just like a 1/2 inch of water, or?
You cover it halfway, yeah.
Just halfway, okay, got it.
Yeah, so if it's like this, you cover it like just halfway. And they actually root very quickly. Like you'll see it actually root pretty quick. So the next thing is rooting in sphagnum moss. And I love it because if you do it in a clear container, this is where I get those really delicious golden kiwis. It's got a top that has vents in it, and it's got a bottom with drainage holes in it. Like it's like a greenhouse already. So what you do is you can buy sphagnum moss basically at any garden store. You can get it online. The only thing you want to do is buy non-preserved sphagnum moss. If you buy preserved sphagnum moss, it has this chemical on it that is bad apparently, and it maybe not let your rootings take hold. So where do I have my sphagnum moss? I have it over here. All right, so I put a chip. You actually get it in a compressed pancake, and it was small, and I was like, this is 2 quarts dry. Like, I know what that means anyway, but I was like, this is 2 quarts dry, because it was like a postcard. It was tiny. So I took a chip off of it and I put it in a bucket, and it fruffled in size. It like just exploded. This is the last of it, and the chunk was probably about that big, okay, and it was about that thick, and it turned into all of this lovely moss. Okay, look at that. Oh, yeah, that's so soft. Okay, so it's a great rooting medium because it is basically dead, so it's not going to steal nutrients from the plant. It's also non-decaying, because when things decay, it actually sucks nitrogen from the surrounding area to decay. It doesn't really decay, so that's a plus. And it's basically a sponge. It has the texture of a sponge, and it holds water like a sponge, so it'll keep things nice and moist. And then 3, roots love to get intertangled with all of the little fine hairs of this sphagnum moss.
I have a question.
Yes, sir, Robert.
Back to water. I used to put eggshells in after I, fry an egg or whatever. I used to take the shells and put them in a jar of water, and that used to fertilize the plants. And whenever I used to use, have you ever done that yourself, or?
Absolutely. So eggshells are a great way to make like a really fortifying tea, what I call a tea for plants. Just do what you do. You break an egg open and the shell, kind of rinse it out, put it in a jar, fill it with water, and what's going to end up happening is the water's going to pull out calcium, magnesium, mostly calcium, what the shell is made out of, but also other small, trace minerals in there. And when you give that to plants, it's gold, basically. You can do the same with worm castings. You can make a tea out of it, but it's kind of stinky. It's not stinky. It smells like just wet ground is all. Or you can do it with compost as well. However, the compost, they tell you to like leave it for like 10 or 15 days, and that stuff stinks, just like my poop fertilizer stinks. Like, it's really nasty. The eggs don't really smell as long as you rinse them, I think. So I never had a problem with that. Yeah.
Another question. I'm into California plants. That's what I like to grow. And so I bought some poppy seeds and I sprinkle them all around, but they've never taken root at all. So does it take a while for them to come up, or?
It's funny because poppies are one of those plants where they are very sensitive to like the timing of the year. They love to do these like mass blooms because they love that. And the thing is that it's just a matter of putting them out at the right time, but not doing it so early that the birds get to it first. Because I don't know if you've had poppy seed bagel before. They are delicious to eat, and birds think the same thing. And even those little tiny itty bitty seeds, they'll search and peck in there for them and eat them. Also, the earthworms will eat them, so it's the timing. It's one of those things. I would probably wait until like the end of fall, and then I would try it again, because they want to bloom like at the end of winter for us. So I would try it at that time.
Okay.
If not, try starting the seeds indoors. Just so that you have full control. You're not eating the seeds yourself. All right. So for this next propagation, okay, I'm just going to put a little layer of sphagnum moss into the container. Okay. And then I'm going to go get a part leaf philodendron, which is over there.
Could you also put your pothos into the sphagnum moss?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can definitely do that. So with this heart-shaped philodendron, okay, so now that I have these cuttings, I'm gonna do single node cuttings now. So I'm just gonna take, do you see how all I have is the leaf? and the node. So I'm going to do that and take off a whole bunch. And the mid stem, once it's detached from the node, does nothing for you by that point. So we can just snip it off and get rid of it. This node is cool because it has 2 leaves already on it, or leaves, I guess, 2 leaves on it. So when it roots, it's going to look crazy with new growth. So this is cool. All right, so let's do this. I'm going to just trim off that excess vine right there. Go. Trim off the excess vine. And here we go. There's another one. And then look, that is leafless. It has no leaf, but I do see roots. So I'm going to take it anyway. I'm going to cut off the excess. I'm going to cut off this side as well. And I am going to just do this tiny little node right here and see what happens. It'll work, I promise you. So now what you do is we're going to get that one, and we're going to help this guy out because he doesn't have any leaves. So we're going to help him out by directly putting the little roots that it has directly right into the soil upright. Then the other guys, we're simply going to plant these little nodes into the sphagnum moss, one by one. Okay, another one. If it has a really large leaf like this, just kind of tuck it in the corner and then put the leaf kind of like to the side. And then our last one, tuck that in. Then I'm going to get a little tiny bit of sphagnum moss, and I'm going to tuck it in around them so that they kind of are just stuck in place. So we're going to do, there we go. Now this sphagnum moss is already like pretty moist because I soaked it and then I wrung it out. I soaked it again just to get kind of like the dust off, and then I wrung it out, so it's pretty wet. So now that we have all of those in, I'm going to cover it in this cute little greenhouse, and I'm going to put that right next to its mama up there on that shelf so that it kind of acclimates to not being with its mom anymore, and then I'll move it into more light gradually. One more thing that I want to show you guys, because this is one of my favorite plants in the whole wide world now, and to be honest with you, it's so easy to get a beautiful specimen because I've seen them growing outside in certain areas of town. So this is a Monstera deliciosa, which is a Swiss cheese plant. And it's easy to root these guys. So they look so tropical and lush and crazy, but they're so easy. They literally tell you where to cut. There is a root already sticking straight out. I would cut it right underneath, and I would stick it in a vase of water. And I tell you, in a few days, that thick root will start to elongate because it'll look white, and it'll start sending out all kinds of roots. And when it sends out roots, cut it up.
Wow.
And look, this one, so if you get one that already has a bunch of the holes in it, if it's very mature, it has a bunch of holes, lots of cutouts and stuff. The next leaf is going to look almost completely baby with no holes or anything. But then the next leaf will be a full mature guy. Okay, so let me show you some other really cute things. Peperomias. Peperomias are also known as the tractor seat plant. Why? Because look, I look like a little tractor seat.
Aww.
These are strange because you can root them just from a stem. So this plant and another plant called Frost, because it's silvery, they fell over and a bunch of stems broke. And I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And then I remembered these guys actually just root from a leaf and stem. And look at how adorable.
Oh.
That's adorable. Here's the other variety.
Oh.
So I had a bunch of them, and I rooted them. Where did I put? Oh, I planted them
How amazing.
And the thing is that these 3 leaves that are the mama leaves, they will continue to give nutrients and continue to photosynthesize, but eventually they will turn yellow and die and fall off. But they definitely did a good job raising their babies.
Wow.
Now that's cute. Okay, do we have time for one more?
Can Dolly make an appearance?
Wow, is that your Swiss cheese one?
Ooh, yes. That's what she wants.
Look.
Very nice. Ooh,
It has new
leaves.
leaves.
Oh, no, I'm done.
Good. Very good.
Do you know anything about orchids?
Oh my God, so orchids. Oh, shit. That one is a hard one, okay? Orchids are one of those things where, like, I had an orchid that I got for my birthday, and I would splash some water in it once a week, and it would bloom for me all the time. Then I was like, oh, I'm so cool. Look at me growing orchids. So I went out and I bought a bunch of them. And to this day, I don't have any orchids. I don't know what it is with them. They're finicky little finsters.
Yeah, they're really. I heard they're really difficult. I was going to take a class in it. That's how much I love them. But I think the main thing is, don't they have to have good drainage?
Yeah, they can't sit in water, you know, but they do love water. They just want water to gently flow over their roots once a day. You know, like they're just very finicky little creatures. However, I think they're gorgeous. I have been to the Pan Pacific Orchid Expo that they have here in San Francisco. It's amazing. These people grow orchids the size that I can't even imagine, like, how much bigger they can get if they're already that big. I mean, with flowers that are like palm size. I mean, just crazy. So if you can.
Yeah, I made my first purchase was at Trader Joe's, and there was no drainage.
Wow.
Really pretty, but I looked
They
at the
put
bottom and no drainage.
Yeah, they put them all in these, like, basically ceramic mugs where they just collect water all day. Yeah.
We're going to do one quick last plant, and then we're going to have a little announcement of a little giveaway from Humberto, and then we'll finish up.
So the ZZ plant, the Easy ZZ is one of those that, like, looks alien, looks scary, but is super easy to propagate as well, because all you do is cut a little stem off and you put it in water, and it sits there for months and months and doesn't do anything. And then you think, I got to throw that trash out because it's trash. And then one day, out of the corner of your eye, it grew roots. This has been months. I'm talking 6 months, and it finally has roots. They all finally have roots. They're not rotten. I thought they were rotten. They have roots, and I'm finally going to pot them up and get them out of this jar that has been their tiny jail for at least half a year. And the thing about these is that you're supposed to wait until they form a little tuber, which basically looks like a little potato. And once it forms a little potato on the end, then you put it into soil and you treat it just like a ZZ. Like I said, ZZs are easy, and you put them into a sunny window, and you give them some water, and they love you. Okay, so now we're going to get to a little giveaway. I love doing a giveaway because if we're going to talk about plants, I want you guys to be able to just, like, get started and, like, do it. So let me bring up the picture.
Humberto, my little dolly plant, the Swiss cheese, she's still a baby, so I'm afraid to clip her arms off.
Yeah, you know what? Let her grow a little bit, and then you will you'll be able to take some clippings off, and you won't have a problem.
Okay. I don't want to hurt her.
So I'm going to put your names into my little wheel of fortune, and you can win this right here, which is a little propagation station. So it's a little rack, and it has all of these little vials in there that you can put water in, and you can put all of your cuttings in now that you know that it's that easy, that you can just snip and propagate. All right, so spin the wheel for the prop station. Are you guys ready? So there's all your names. We're gonna spin the wheel.
Marianne. Who won?
Peter. Peter won.
Peter won.
Yay!
Hey.
But we have some good news for everybody else, right?
Yes. So I am going to make a list of a bunch of these cuttings that I took today. And I'm going to send that list to the Senior Vitality crew so they can kind of, if you guys want some of these cuttings, we can definitely offer you cuttings.
I mean, I definitely have enough pathos to share with people.
We'll have pothos. I'll give you guys cuttings of the peperomia. I'll give you guys cuttings of the radiator plant, Swiss cheese vine. I'll give you guys cuttings of a lot of stuff. It's good to kind of trim your plants anyway, so I'm cool with letting go of some of my babies.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I really thoroughly enjoyed that.
Can I show you something before we leave?
Sure.
Ooh.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Look at that girl. She looks so good. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Okay. The rabbit one, that's the parent.
Aw.
This one, this other one, that's the babies.
Wow.
Wow.
The baby is so healthy and strong.
It was leaves that I dipped in water and let them catch roots. And then I put them in the soil.
Very nice.
Wow.
Lovely. I love it.
And what I did, February, I put leaves in glass. Then March, I put root leaves in soil. Then September, I put plants in a big pot.
Wow, yeah, that's a great timeline.
Yeah. So just before we go, there was a lot of, I know, products mentioned and very details. And so if you want to email me, just email me back on the, the Zoom announcement, and then I can get you in touch with Humberto to make sure we get you the exact right link for that. Okay.
And then we
I
can
just wanna
always
know
have
about
some
that.
cuttings that you could pick
Oh.
up. What'd you say, Eva?
I just want that big pole.
Okay, we'll
put
definitely
it in the pot.
I'll definitely give you the link for that. I'll give it to Philip and then he'll give it to you.
Maybe we
Okay.
can also raffle one off at a future plant event.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm doing a whole series of plants. So we've got propagation. I think the next one is going to be potting. So I will be repotting a few plants. I'll be potting up some of these cuttings that I took today. And then I think my last episode in this series will be like a question and answer. So it'll be just all of your questions, and I'll try to answer them the best that I can.
Oh, Katie.
Thank you, Humberto.
Thank you
Yep.
so much.
Thank
I learned
you.
a lot.
You're welcome, absolutely. It's super fun to share my plant babies with everyone.
Have a great
Come back
weekend.
again.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Have a great weekend.
All right, bye guys.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. You're welcome.